So, what's today's daily calendar? Daily calendar, Yen Roshi corrected saying. They said, this is a very important thing for our practicing. I say, 却下 is Japanese. That's funny. This is Japanese. 却下 look carefully where your own footstep fall. Mean, see? To keep your eyes right now on your own state of being and on the reality. See? This is the most important way of practicing. See? In another word, what it says in another word, when I face this, when I face this, see, without thinking, without trying to do anything, I simply become as it is. See, without doing anything, see? I simply become as it is. See? This reality, this circumstance, we should never lose it. This is the best way to practice. When I face it, see, I simply become what I just faced. See? Why do I have to be without doing anything? Without doing anything, I never think. I never think of anything. I just faced to. I just faced this. I simply just become what I faced. This is such a wondrous. This is such a wondrous thing. Without doing anything, without thinking, I simply just become as it is, as it is, no saying. See, people don't know much about this reality. See, this is the most important thing for us to realize who we are. Although other people never understand it. See, this is a very wondrous, very marvelous thing. When I face it, I simply become as it is. See, without thinking. In another word, without thinking, in another word, without what we think about the self, what we think of the self or I. I simply become as it is. As it is. As it is. See? This is a key point. This is a key point to realize who we are. What we think of the self or I is a delusion. That is a completely delusion. That is a creation of thinking. See? That kind of reality never exists. See? That kind of delusion exists. Or you may say that kind of reality just exists in your mind. And that's a creation of thinking. That's the delusion. That's not a reality. People are completely deceived by thinking. See, very, very, very good. Looks like very, okay. No, thank you. Okay, so look carefully where your own footsteps fall. See? This is a kyakashoko. This is the way we have to just practice. See? When I just face this, I simply become as a tea. See? Without self, without doing it, without trying to do anything. when you feel this, see? When I just clap my hand, you simply become this sound. Without doing anything. Why do you have to be? Why do you have to be? Huh? Without trying to do anything, you simply become this sound. Hmm? People don't know much about this very important aspect. See, to realize who you are. See? That's the reason we have to be very careful to look carefully where your own footstep or fall. But unfortunately, what people are doing right now, people always just thinking about what's going on, going on, what's happening right now in their mind. This is a delusion. This is a delusion, not true. The reality or the truth is when you face it, when I face this, I simply become as it is. This is a reality. The reality is just come out. See, before the recognition. Reality is just come out before recognition. And he just, Jinen just clap his hand and the sound come out. That's a delusion. That's not a reality. Reality is nothing left. Nothing left at all. Okay. Mean to keep your eyes right now on your own state of being and on the reality. It never separates from a reality. What the reality is as it is. Okay. That's the things. That's the things the Jinen just want to teach us to for us to our practice accomplished. Okay, very good. So we go back to our today's ticket. Oh, yes. Listen. Take is number 17. Essentially empty. Essentially empty. Very good. Empty. Yeah. So when I say empty, see, when I say empty, people just have a kind of imagination of empty. That is not a reality. See? That is not a reality. See? What empty is, that's it. What's empty is, that's it. See? Nothing there. Nothing else. See? That is emptiness. That is empty. You may say so. See? But that is entirely different from what you think of empty with thinking. Empty. Listen. Nothing else. This is empty. This way, see, whole universe going on. This way, whole universe going. This way, our daily or our activity is going on. Nothing else. See? Look at yourself. yourself. Look at yourself. See? From after waking up this morning to right now, so many things just happening, so many things you experience, but nothing, nothing left at all. What you have experienced, what you have done, nothing you could, nothing, nothing left at all. But the things is just right now. See, what kind of what kind of the things or the things you experience, you just experience. Where they go, where they gone away? Nothing else, just as it is right now. So many things you have just from morning to right now, from morning to right now. So many things just your experience you just have done, but nothing else. So what happened? Nobody knows much about this reality. I see. The reason why what we think of the self never exists. That's the reason nothing left at all. Nothing left at all. This is Shakyamuni Buddha's realization. That's the reason nothing left. That's the reason we never have any trouble, any question, any problem, nothing left. What people are the think of the cause of the problem question trouble is something left. And the people just always try to just figure out what kind of things just come out, never good. This this causes trouble. But nothing left. Nothing left. You never just try to deal with, try to figure out what it is, what's you never just think, but you never just try to find out the reason why that's kind of things things just come out. You see, you don't need to do anything because nothing just how they think. Yeah? This much, this much. Even we just have a trouble question. Even we just want to have a question, trouble, problem. See, it's totally difficult to have a question, trouble, problem because nothing at all. Nothing at all. This is a very important thing for us to realize who we are. We are, we are already complete and universal. As Master Dogen just teach it, we are already complete and universal. That's the reason we don't need to do anything. We don't need to do anything. But very unfortunate, people always try to do anything, try to do the transition. It's caused us trouble. Only the suffering. Only the source of suffering is this. People always trying to do. This is a source of suffering. For the just simply let it go. Let it go as it is. Whatever just thinking, whatever thinking or thought come up in your mind without any reason, without any reason. So we don't need to care much about anything. We don't need to care much anything. Simply just let it go. let it go. That is totally enough. This is that. This is that. So the more you do this, the more you do this. The other just always mentioned. The more you this, the more you become. The more you just become the things you face right now. Eventually, there is no separation between this and this. There is no separation, no gap. Exactly as it is, one. This moment, you never be realize anything because you see, you never be aware of anything, be able to be aware of anything because one, because of one, you never be able to be aware of anything, but something happened. Then you recognize this sound, and at the same time you recognize this one as the self. Then you'll be able to realize, this moment, see, this moment, see, we just recognize this one as a self or I before recognition. See, what we think about the self never exists. You'll be you'll be able to clarify this reality. That is the Shakyamuni Buddha's realization. That's the reason we have to do that. Okay. There was a time before. Where is it? Okay. It is. So now we're gonna start. Okay. Very good. How are you? How are you? Okay. It is not that we are detaching ourselves from personal viewpoint from this point on. It is not that we detach ourselves from personal viewpoint from the point on. You just kind of thinking, see, what the reality, what the truth, what is a kind of a kind. Before those are thinking how the idea just come out in your mind. We are completely be free from everything. Then that kind of idea come out in your mind, and you just try to hold it, and then you just take it out, and then see, you just try to figure out what's the reason that kind of thinking should come out. Before you just try to figure out what it is, what it is. There is nothing trouble at all. People don't know much about it. Because you try to figure out, because you try to figure out what it is, what's the reason, that's kind of the thinking or idea or whatever that's come up in your mind. Then you just try to do it. The more you do, the more you be confused. See? That is totally unuseless. That is totally unuseless. We don't need to do it. Thinking a thought or idea just simply come out in your mind without any reason. Simply come out without any reason. People don't know much about this. That's the reason people always try to figure out or deal with. It's a totally useless, unuseful. but all the people are doing this way. People don't know much about this reality. That's reason. It is not, we are detaching ourselves from personal viewpoint from this point on. Before, as I just mentioned, we don't need to do anything. Even whatever thinking also come out in our mind. The reality is just coming out. The thinking also just coming out the inner mind without any reason, and it disappear. And the other kind of thinking also come out in our mind. See? Then disappear. Then coming out, disappear. Coming out, disappear. We don't need to do anything. See? We don't need to attach the thinking also to it also. But people always try to just erase, they get rid of the thinking also. And people always try to do it. This is totally useless. People don't know much about this. It's caused us trouble. It is not that we are detaching ourselves from personal viewpoints from this point. There was a time before personal viewpoint arose, and that time is our own reality. See? As I just mentioned, see? When the thinking just come out in your mind, without any reason, so that we don't need to just take care of it at all. But we are always try to do it. But before thinking or thought come out in the mind. See? But unfortunately, see, people don't know much about before recognition. See? Before recognition. See? People don't know much about this reality. See? Before recognition. See? What happened before recognition is when I feel this, see, I simply become as it is. Oneness. See? That's it. See, oneness is itself. That's the reason. See, it is totally impossible for us to know much about oneness is or itself is because of itself. See, you never know much about it. But and also you don't need to know much about what oneness is, what itself is, because of itself. See? You don't need to do. You don't need to do anything because simple as it is. See? Whether knowing or not, nothing concerned with it. See? Before knowing, see, this reality is nothing concerned with neither knowing nor not knowing. See? Nothing concerned with. In another word, this reality is nothing concerned with thinking. So this reality is far beyond the thinking. But unfortunately, people don't know much about this reality. What the people know much about, what the people will be able to know much about is within thinking. Within thinking. That's not the truth. That's a delusion. Thinking is a delusion, although we don't deny it. But see, what people think of the thinking is a delusion. See? Because as far as thinking, there is a certain separation between this and this. Otherwise, you never be able to recognize what it is. See, that's the thinking. That's the thinking. But see, our true existence is before recognition, see? Before thinking is come out in our mind. See? You never know much about what it is before thinking, before not thinking just come out in you. mind. That's the reason. We never be able to just realize what it is. What people know much about reality is after after the recognition. That is another reality. That is another reality. What people think about that is reality. That is a delusion. That's the reason people never be satisfied with everything. See? Because that is another reality. That is thinking is another reality. Thinking is a delusion. Okay. There was a time before personal viewpoints are known, and the time is our own reality. That is the true state of our mind. Oh, that was the time before our personal viewpoint, before recognition. Before recognition, as I just mentioned, that is the reality of ourself. Or you may call it the essential self. Before recognition, that's the reason you never be able to know much about this reality because of before recognition. Only you'll be able to just know much about what's happened, what's going on is after recognition. After recognition. See, a human viewpoint that after human viewpoint just come out in our mind. Then you'll be able to know much. Oh, what to do. See, that is a delusion. That is not a truth. Unfortunate. But if you just do just do a zazen, if you do the zazen, what's a zazen? Whatever thinking and thought just come out come up in your mind. Simply let it go as it is. This zazen is totally enough. As I just mentioned before, the more you do this zazen, the more you do this zazen, the more you just become the things you face to right now. Eventually, see, there is no separation, no gap between this and that. See, you never know much about anything. You never recognize anything. Right now, right now, right now. You never recognize anything, but you just simply just recognize what they did, what they did, and the things just come up in your mind. That's a delusion. The reality is nothing, nothing exists right now, right here. You don't know much about anything. That's the reason you don't have any troubles because you don't know much about anything. Vasily-san, I know much about you. only trouble is you don't know much about me. That's the whole problem. What do you mean by that? Very good. Okay. So if you just completely just forget about everything's one, this moment, you don't know much about me. Even I don't know much about you. Both of us don't know much about each other. That's much completely forget. That's much completely forget about everything. In another way, thinking ourselves completely cease. See, thinking ourselves completely cease. the thinking and the thought completely dropped away. See, then there is nothing exists. You never be able to realize. You never be able to realize anything. Just as it is. Just as it is. Then what the Shakyamuni Buddha realization is something that happened. See, then you'll be able to realize what reality is. See, who you are, what the essential self is. See, but at least we have this experience. In other words, even you just understand, even you just understand this reality by thinking, you will be able to just satisfy with everything. See? You never be able to be free from everything. Once you just become this sound, there is no separation between that and this sound and this. Then you never have any trouble. You never have any question. You never have any trouble. Okay, that's a Shakyamuni Buddha's realization. Okay, and that time is our own reality. Before recognition is our own reality. After recognition is the creation the creation of thinking. That is another truth. That's another reality. See, what did they say? Our own reality is so great, tremendous. See? What the patriarchs just teach us is non-self. Non-self is the universe. You see, once what you think about the self dropped away, you simply become universe itself. That's much the essential, our essential self is so tremendous. Nothing concerns with what we think about, thinking of the self. That's the reason we have to do as others. What is that then? What is that then? You'll be able to just realize this reality, who you are, what the essential self is. Very great. So what is called the personal viewpoint is merely a cognitive function. Cognitive function. That is not true. The personal viewpoint, who are thinking. That is not the truth. But what people think of the kind of a personal viewpoint or kind of thinking is a reality, true. Completely diluted. Completely diluted. That's the reason once we just separate, we have to separate from the thinking or personal viewpoint completely. Then you'll be able to know much about what it is, what they do. So, you never care much about thinking or personal viewpoint anymore. Okay. The fact that each of the empty before that emptiness was recognized is simply the condition as it is. See? What the Jinen Roshi just want to teach us is the fact that it was empty before that emptiness was recognized is simply the condition as it is. Right now, nothing exists. Nothing exists before recognition. Nothing exists. But people don't know much about this reality. See? Because Well, as far as the thinking, see, the only knows much about after recognition. After recognition, see, there's the things comes in your mind. See, before things, before before things come out in your mind, is just empty. Nothing is it. Nothing. Oh, ah, that is, that is. That's, that's recognition comes after recognition. That's kind of knowing much about what it is that come out after recognition. Before recognition, those are the things. See, as long as the words, as long as words and the letters come out in your mind, you don't know much about anything. You don't know much about anything. Just as it is, just as it is. Without without any substance, just as it is, just come out in your on your eyes, and just come out, just come out in your eyes, without any existence, without any substance. Yeah. There is nothing just recognize. Nothing, the things recognize what it is. That is a reality, but people don't know much about it. Only people know. People know much. People know much about it after recognition. That is a delusion. That is not true. But unfortunately, people don't know much about this reality. That's the reason we have to do that. What is called a personal viewpoint is merely a cognitive function. It has no substance whatever. No substance. The people just recognize the things as having substance. It's a totally delusion. Okay, the fact. Oh, the fact that it was empty before that empty was recognized is simply the conditionality right now. Right now is totally empty, totally empty. Nothing exists, nothing. But people don't. People totally don't know much about this reality. That is all this history. That's it. Totally empty. Nothing exists. Right. Okay. The fact that it was empty before as it is, that's all very true. It was. If we accept that, we will detach from our human viewpoint. See, if we just accept, oh, this is it, well, it's a totally different, different from what we think about the right now, right here. Then you'll be able to detach. You are not completely separate from attaching, attaching the thinking. So you don't need to care much about thinking also at all. Without thinking, without thinking, we are simply act. We can just simply act. We are simply acting right now, without thinking. Without thinking, without what we think of the self. Who is acting? Who is acting? Without self. Who is acting? That's the reason Master Zogi just teaches, our activity is a complete and universal. Our activity is a universal activity, not the human activities. People never know much of this reality. This is the Shakyamuni Buddha's realization. Our activity, our own existence is so tremendous. Nothing concerns with what we think of the self. See, that's the reason we have to do that. The fact that it was empty before that empty world recognizes simply the condition as it is. That is all there is to it. If we accept that, we will detach from our human being point. See? Our we'll be able to detach from what we think of the self. That is a way. That is a way. This is the Dharma. This is the Dharma. Our true existence, our essential existence is nothing concerned with the human being or human. See, our true existence is the Dharma itself, Dharma, the way itself. See? Completely different from what we think of. See? That's the reason we have to do that. Only one chance, within our life, we have to accomplish this problem. Otherwise, there is no more any more chance. There is any more chance to realize who you are. Okay, that's the reason. See, sincerely, we have to do that. Okay, the fact that it was accept, if we accept that, we'll detach from our human being point. This is the way. That is the most important aspect of sadhana. See, all these are things you'll be able to just realize who you are. See? What the essential self is. See? We have to do it. We have to do it. Well, it's up to you. It's up to you. If you really satisfied with everything, if you really want to feel so great, so easy with everything, you have to do it. You have to do it. Then you feel so satisfaction. You feel so satisfied with everything. You don't need to have anything. You don't need to have anything. Just simply whatever thinking is supposed to come out in your mind, simply just let it go. Let it go. And then, only this way you'll be able to realize who you are. Very simple. It's a very easy to say. It's a very easy to say, but it's a totally difficult to do. Shakyamuni Buddha or Petrus know much about this reality. That's even that's very difficult to do it. But Shakyamuni Buddha or Petrus just recommend us to do because only one chance. Because of only one chance. Gary-san, you don't need to have anything. You don't need to have anything to reality for you, to become a person who never worried about anything. See? Only 1 square meter space. Only 1 square meter space. No, the whole library is not necessary, but it's all right. In your case, whole universe, not a whole universe, whole library will be all right. But only 1 square meter space is enough. If that much space, you never have, you have it, you have it, you already have it. Half of it is it's all right. And they simply just said, if you have a kind of round question, it will be all right. But you don't have it, doesn't matter. Simply said, then whatever just thinking or thought come out in your mind, simply let it go as it is. Then, as I just always mentioned, that kind of 1 square meter space become whole universe. See, that's is very great. See, 1 square meter space become whole universe. Wow, that's the reason we have to do that. Okay, that's the one. The truth precedes the recognition. Yeah? Reality just come first before recognition. Yeah? When I face this, I simply become as it is. Yeah? I simply become as it is. This is reality. There is no separation between this and this. This is reality. Oneness. Oneness. You never know much about which is which. See? That's the reason. We never have any trouble. See? We don't know much about. We don't know much about anything. We can know. We don't know much everything. That's the reason we never have any trouble. Because we know much about. Because we know much about everything. See? It causes trouble. If you don't know much about anything, you never have any troubles. But what people say, without knowing what we can do, how we have to do. We are already doing. We are already acting. We are doing without thinking, without knowing. Yeah? But people don't know much because our daily life, daily activity is exactly without knowing, without thinking, without self. As I just mentioned, universal activity. So great, so great. But people don't know much about this reality, unfortunately. The truth precedes the recognition. That's the reason we don't need to worry about anything by thinking. We don't need to worry about anything. Before we just worried about what we have to do, what we should do. We simply act. We can simply act. See? So we don't need to worry about anything, but people don't know much about this reality. So all the people just think about what we have to do. It's called us trouble. We don't need to do it. We don't need to do that way. It's a totally useless. Recognition arrives after the truth. So very, very, very great. Recognition arises after the truth. The things already finished, already end. Without thinking, without self. Then the kind of recognition come out in your mind, and just take the things what you have done, what you are doing, take it out. Then you just try to figure out what we have to do, why we have done such things. That's a totally useless. That's a totally useless. Reality is completely end without anything left, without anything less, without anything left. We don't need to care much about anything. Most people always try to figure out what that's only cause of trouble. That's that's a source of suffering. We creating our own trouble, by ourselves. Very great, very great. Gary-san, are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? That's kind of a huge space, isn't it? Lopa-san, how do I do?
Nothing at all.
Okay. So what I just want to ask you is a kind of Vasily is another good person. You know much about it. Although he is not a good person, but always juggling, always try to juggle the whole universe. But in a sense, it's all right. It's all right. It's up to you. Hi, thank you so much. Thank you.